Good afternoon. I am Robert J. Contee III, Chief of Police of the Metropolitan Police Department here in Washington, D.C. I need to stress MPD's commitment to and the importance of transparency with our community. It is my responsibility as the Chief of Police to deliver timely information, even when it reflects negatively on the members of the Metropolitan Police Department. Today's briefing is related to an ongoing internal affairs investigation, and while I can't provide all details currently, as this investigation is still preliminary, I am able to provide enough information that outlines what has occurred and our response. On September 11, 2022, a member of our community made a complaint against MPD officers. An investigation was initiated stemming from this interaction. During our internal review of body-worn camera footage, we discovered a prior incident that was unrelated to the community member making the complaint that involved misconduct. Specifically, from our preliminary investigation, 2 officers had confiscated an illegal firearm from a suspect without making an arrest. It is unclear why no arrest was made. From what we have learned, the officers had probable cause to make an arrest, and they did not, nor did they pursue an arrest warrant afterwards. While the guns were properly accounted for and placed in evidence, the officer's version in the police report is inconsistent with the body-worn camera footage associated with the seizure. In essence, an illegal firearm was removed from an armed suspect, and the suspect was allowed to walk away without consequence of arrest or officers securing an arrest warrant. Upon identifying their actions, the 2 members were placed in a non-contact and administrative leave status, while IED agents continued reviewing this case and previous cases where illegal firearms were recovered. During the course of IED's review, they discovered additional members involved in misconduct. An additional 5 members have been placed on non-contact status. This includes 2 sergeants and 3 officers. We have a total of 7 members on non-contact status as a result of this investigation. Based upon our review of the past several months and out of an abundance of caution, we feel it is necessary to temporarily reassign additional members of the 7th District Crime Suppression Team while this investigation continues. To ensure the fight against violent crime is not impacted in the 7th District, MPD resources from our Community-Focused Patrol Unit and Violent Crime Suppression Division will be shifted to provide adequate coverage across the 7th District. I want to reassure all members of our community that we are coordinating with the United States Attorney's Office and additional partners to ensure that this investigation is done completely, expeditiously, and thoroughly, and in a way to maintain community trust. Our officers are tasked with the difficult job of removing illegal firearms from the community every day. And while we stress the importance of holding offenders accountable for their actions, we have an obligation to hold our members to a high standard in all that they do. The expectations of our officers is that they make arrests when they have probable cause to make an arrest or secure arrest warrants where appropriate. This matter is serious and will be handled accordingly. This case was initiated due to the diligence of a 7th District management official, and my commitment to the community is that we will continue to be transparent throughout the remainder of this investigation. I can take any questions that you might have at this point.
Yes, Chief, right here. So the other 5 officers, sergeants and the other officers, they also were involved with seizing weapons and not arresting individuals. To be a little more clear about these other officers.
So the additional 5 that we're talking about today are 2 supervisors, 2 sergeants, and 3 officers. And so far, what we have identified is that these members were also engaged in similar acts of misconduct.
Chief, just to be clear, we're talking, you described the situation in which a suspect who had an illegal firearm was arrested. Do we believe that there's plurality of that there are more cases than that just one?
So what I'm saying is that in these cases, the suspect was not arrested, and the suspect should have been arrested. The firearm was taken. The firearm was taken and placed into evidence. However, the suspect was allowed to go free. And that's just not the way that we conduct business here in the Metropolitan Police Department. Our responsibility is to enforce the laws. And obviously, judges and juries, they have the responsibility for adjudicating those matters. And in these cases, we feel that that process did not take place.
One case we're talking about, one case.
No. So there's one case, the first case that involves the two officers who were initially put off in a non-contact status. Subsequent to that, our Internal Affairs Division has done a several-month review of cases of other cases where firearms were recovered. And in these cases, and could be right now, I mean, I don't want to say, I don't know exactly how many that they are, but it's less than double-digit numbers right now. And in these cases, we've identified other members who similarly allow suspects to leave the scene after confiscating an illegal firearm without placing that suspect under arrest and without seeking a warrant for that person's arrest.
And were those firearms reported? Were they?
The firearms were reported. They were turned into evidence. They are accounted for. The suspects are the ones that are unaccounted for. The suspects were allowed to go free, and they should have been placed under arrest, or at the minimum, an arrest warrant could have been, we could have initiated an arrest warrant to arrest a person, and we did not.
So should you have a situation where officers are stopping individuals, conducting a search based on probable cause, which you're saying, but not arresting individuals, but reporting these firearms?
That's correct.
What do you make as the reason why?
I can't even speculate as to why that is. That's not the way that we train. It's not the way that I've been trained, and it's not what we expect of our members. We expect our members that when they encounter armed individuals on the street who are in possession of illegal firearms, that those people are taken into custody. Or if we don't have them right at that moment, they're able to escape, and we find out who the person is, that we apply for an arrest warrant for that person's arrest. And in these cases, that did not happen. I wish I could tell you why. At this stage of the investigation, I don't know why.
Chief, is this new? I mean, I've heard of this before.
Well, it's new as far as I'm concerned under my watch. When it came to my attention, Sam, this is the response that we've taken as an agency, and as the directions to our internal affairs is to look and see, where this exists in our agency. We have a responsibility to community to make communities safer, and that includes taking bad guys to jail. People who have illegal firearms, that does not make communities safer when we allow people, in some instances, potentially armed felons, to go on about their business and just recover the firearm. It's only a short amount of time before they're in possession of another firearm, and I'm sure of that.
Chief,
yeah.
ATF, FBI, anybody else involved in this investigation?
No, this is the Metropolitan Police Department's investigation. Our Internal Affairs Bureau is investigating this matter. Obviously, we have federal partners at our disposal. If we need them, we'll call upon them, but this is an MPD investigation. It does not appear that to be the case, but again, we're in the preliminary stages of the investigation, so we'll sift through all of that.
Were any of these officers already under internal investigation for anything other than what you described to us today?
I'm sure that they've had some citizen complaints, but nothing of this magnitude, nothing like this. These members have been on the department anywhere ranging from 2013 to 2019, so that time frame. So I'm sure that they've had some investigations, but nothing like this.
So this has been going on for several months, Chief? Why
No.
The investigation.
No, the investigation's been going on for days, not for months. So what I said was that when it first came to our attention, that was September 11th, when there was an initial incident, and we identified two members. We put those two members off. Our internal affairs since that time has been combing through months of body-worn camera footage, and as they've gone through the months of body-worn camera footage, these are things that they've identified. When they've identified these things, I got briefed on this a little early, a few hours ago, and now we're talking to the community about what came of the review from the body-worn camera footage and internal affairs, their preliminary investigation so far.
How many cases, Chief?
Say it again.
How many cases?
It looks right now, it's kind of hard to gauge them, but we know of like 7 is what we know of. Yeah, about 7 cases.
7 cases involving these two officers, or 7 cases
Seven,
involving 7?
Yeah, all involving all of them. It appears to be about 7 cases.
And
But
how many, those 2 officers, after going through the body-worn camera, how many additional incidents were you able to find?
no, so in total, after reviewing the months of body-worn camera footage, we've identified about 7 cases where individuals who were in possession of firearms were allowed to leave after being contacted by members of the Metropolitan Police Department without being placed under arrest or an arrest warrant applied for.
All was in the 7th district.
Yes, these all occurred in the 7th district.
So it
That
could
is
be
correct.
happening in other districts as well.
So those are things that we'll look at. We'll look at across the board to see. Again, that's not a practice that we teach. It's not training that we teach here in the Metropolitan Police Department, and not anything that should be done by our members. The bottom line is, again, we have responsibility for enforcing the law. And when you enforce laws in the District of Columbia, specifically in the areas of guns, with the level of gun violence that we see in community, our police officers have a responsibility in that place. The majority of our officers come to work every day. They do their job. In this case, it sounds like these officers, and what I'm seeing from these instances, we have some members who didn't do their job in these instances.
Do you guys only look in the 7th district, or did this investigation look at other districts?
So the internal affairs, as I mentioned, this is the preliminary stage of the investigation, and internal affairs, they're looking at our entire agency in this space. This when you combing through hours and hours and hours of body-worn camera footage, I mean, that is a momentous task. So the team is working on how they will go back and review. We believe that this is focused in on where it is, and that's what the focus is, but we're not limiting our investigation to that. We'll go where the investigation takes us at this point.
So, Chief, let me ask you this question. When the officers basically put out the reports that they found these guns, no one asked, well, how did you find these guns? What happened as a result of these guns being found?
So again, just kind of going back to what I stated, you know, the report that they wrote is not consistent with what we see in the video. So our internal affairs agents, based upon that, again, going through every report, were able to identify the discrepancy and say, hey, we have a discrepancy here. The report says this is what we see on BWC, and that's how we were able to identify these members that we're focused in on right now.
No search warrants were issued at all for homes or offices?
It does not appear that way. Again, we're in the preliminary stages of the investigation. The internal affairs, you know, that I don't know everything that they're doing in that space, but they will be checking, obviously. I mean, we'd be foolish to not check everything that these members have been doing. So that is part of our part of the review process. We've notified our partners at the U.S. Attorney's Office as well, of the officers who are involved in this. And again, we're in the preliminary stages. So we need to see, obviously, what these members, you know, what else, if anything, that they were involved in. We need to get to the bottom of that.
So there's no concern these officers were selling these guns or doing anything?
Well, the guns are accounted for, at least the ones that we know about. The guns are accounted for. They were taken and placed on the property book. You know, it's not a mystery where the guns are. The mystery is why were the people not arrested? That is the issue. That's the issue that I have, because again, that does not align with what our agency, what we teach. That's not in line with what we train. It's not in line with what we expect from members of the Metropolitan Police Department. I'll take 2 more questions. Yes, ma'am. I don't think it's a cultural issue necessarily. Again, as I mentioned, I think someone just kind of asked this question. I mean, we have to take a wholesale review to make sure that that is not the case. You know, I want to make sure that the public maintains trust with the Metropolitan Police Department, and again, in the spirit of transparency, you know, we have to talk about these things, as difficult as they may be. You know, community members, they need to know exactly what's going on. More importantly, community members need to know that how do these members, how do they remain safe? How do we ensure safety in community? Well, that's a result of shifting resources to make sure that we still have coverage in there. Officers still focused on getting guns the right way, out of the wrong hands in community. That's our focus. That should be our focus. We want to make sure that we're doing everything the lawful way to make our community safer.
What kind of gun was it? First gun that tipped all this off, what kind of gun was it?
Maybe a semi-automatic, I believe.
Chief, how do you feel? Frustrated, betrayed?
Well, I'm disappointed because, again, it doesn't. I have over 3,000 officers that come to work every day. They bust their tails. They go out here and they do a great job of making communities safer for the residents of the District of Columbia. And to have members who in this case, in these cases, appear to do things that are not consistent with what we train, what we teach, that's very disappointing to me. So, I'll reserve the rest of my comments for the outcome of the investigation. But, that's just kind of where we are today. I think, like, again, more importantly, aside from how I feel, it's very important that I communicate this to community members so that they understand what's going on and the actions that we're taking to deal with this issue. All right, thank you.
The time range, you said September 7th, 11th was one, but you reviewed, do you know?
We went back, I had them to go back 3 months. And yeah, so,
3-month period, that's what,
yeah,
7 cases.
yes,
You know about.
yes, that's correct. Yep, thank you. Thank you.